Hi and welcome to the next lecture. Okay, so we now have our leaves, a page of leaves. We have them all split off, broken down like this, and we have our small little branches. And now we're going to build these. They look pretty crazy like that, so I'm going to turn off the edges like so. Bigger branches, and these branches will be attaching to the tree. So first I'm going to show you how to make these. I'm going to show you how to make one, and then you're going to make the rest. We're going to use a similar technique we did for these, but we're going to use object paint up here once we've built our initial branch. So let's build the initial branch in the same way as we did before, but a bigger version of it basically. So we start with a cylinder, just a small cylinder like so. We don't want 18 sides, 5 will be plenty. Don't need 5 height, 1 height. Segments is fine. Let's just move it closer. It's a bit too far away there. Okay, it's a little bit big, so we're just going to shrink that down a little bit. Like this. There we go. Don't need all that height. There. That's it. Okay, now we turn it into an editable poly. Like that. And then we go to freeform branches. We make a much bigger branch like we have here. You can see I've got various ones. I've got a big fat one here that a good filler. I've got a small thinner one which is empty, so one in between, and then a sort of taller one, a taller slim one. So I'm trying to vary it up a bit. I think we need one this sort of size but with fewer leaves on, so we'll do another one of these, I think. Yep, so we'll put a little V in it halfway up. Right, so all you do, same as we did before, you just pull it out. Like that. In fact, didn't like that. Let's do that again. Let's just pull it up. Kink it up there. Because then I can put a little V in it going up here like that. No, that didn't work out very well. Let's do that again. There we go. It's going to be our branch. Let's turn on our edges so we can see what we've got here. And you notice how they slightly tilt after you've done that. That's because you have to have it at a slight angle to be able to see the top of the cylinder when you start, and it draws it on in relation to the screen plane. So, but that's just easy to fix. You just straighten it up. Okay, so now we are going to turbo smooth it, and it's at this point, if you remember last time, we need to convert it to an editable poly again, like so, and we can, just nick some, do some little branches coming off it like this, some little nubs and buds. Gives it a bit more authentic, sort of makes it feel a bit more real. There we go, like that. Put one there. There we go. It looks actually quite tall. I might shrink that down a bit actually in a minute, but first we're going to Pro Optimizer, just like we did with these little ones. We're going to calculate, drop that down to around 500. Yeah, that seems pretty good. So it retains its shape, but optimizes it pretty good. Now we want that sort of webbed look, so we're going to turbo smooth it again. There we go. And that's good for when we want to add a bit of noise. So let's crank up that noise. Actually, let's just collapse that for a minute. Just reset the X form on that first, because it was a bit skew with noise. That's better, much better. Okay, so now we add some noise like that and turn on fractal. Doesn't matter about the seed. 5 seed, basically if you're making like 5 or 6 of these and you're wanting to add noise to all of them, then changing the seed value at the start will just shift its shape. So you can have the same settings, just by changing the seed will give you a different variation. It's quite handy, but we're not using it here, so it doesn't really matter. Just choose a number. Scale we want about 20. Turn on fractal, yeah. Roughness, crank that up a little. And iterations. A few more iterations out, right? And then just start playing with your values, but don't go too crazy, because it can break it if you're not careful with it. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to collapse that. Yep. I'm going to scale it down a little, because I think it's too tall. There we go. I wanted a smaller one with fewer branches on, a bit like this, but with a T, the branch off of it like that. There you go. So that's my branch. Edge faces. Don't worry about its distorted look too much, because we're breaking all the rules and modeling rules doing these, but that's fine. Right, now we're going to add our bark again, just like we did before for the little ones. So we add the bark, go to UV map, select box. There we go to unwrap, open editor. Crazy UVs, we don't really need to change them, just scale them up. I mean, that's hideous, but it's fine. Just rotate that around. Just that stops the sort of repetition down one way. So there we go. Is that smooth enough? It looks pretty good to me. Okay, so we've got a branch. That's how quick is that? That was very quick. So right, make sure when we finish this, you keep all of this, because one day you'll be able to use this for real, next generation perhaps of games consoles. So right now we're going to paint these onto our branch. So what we do is we go into Object Paint here. Now you're going to select Paint with Objects in List. Select that. And we've got to add all our little objects to the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then select them all and click on Add Selected, and all our branches will be in the list, like so. Now you want paint on. So that paints on the selected objects. Paint on selected objects. Like that. Align Z. So that will align it on the Z. This is your position, UVW. We just want to keep that at 0, otherwise the objects will scatter all around, and we don't want them to do that. So just keep that at 0, 0, 0. This is the rotation, and this is the scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to start painting first, and then we can adjust these, and that's the spacing down there. Once we can adjust them once we have some branches on our branch, some smaller branches. So click on the paint here, and you'll see this green tick and X appear. And what this does is when you start painting like this, they're massive, so we can adjust those. And that seems to be the same one, isn't it? See, that's not quite what I expected, so we need to change it so that it's random. They're all randomly. Make sure you select that. So we want to cross that. See what that does? That sort of that turns off all the ones you've done already. So click again, and you'll see this time, see, having paint on selected, it means nothing else will get painted with these, so it's quite handy. That's better. So now they're all different. It's picking from the list randomly. That's clearly way too big, so now we can go and adjust them using our scale, and you'll see it's all locked, so they're all scaling the same, which is good. I mean, this is quite procedural, but you're never going to get away with just doing this. You're going to have to go in and manually twist them, turn them, position them and scale them once you've done your initial layout. This just makes it easier to get them into position, the initial stage, and I've done that with all of these. I've actually gone in, you can see I've deliberately made them smaller at the top and gradually get bigger as you come down. Spread them out more evenly, rotated them so that it looks a bit more realistic. And yeah, so you're going to have to go in manually and do some. So just keep painting them on until you feel like, I don't want too many on this one. To be honest, don't be afraid to put too many on, because you can always delete them afterwards. I put a few in the back so you get those ones in shadow, which is quite nice. Let me see, just put one on there. I think that's it. I don't want any more than that, and you can see you don't get quite the same look as you do here. So now, if you're happy with the amount you've got on there, just go up here. I mean, you can play with these some more if you want to. Like, I'll show you what this does. UVW. If you select these, they go off to the wild. So make sure those are at 0. So undo that. We'll put it back to 0, like that. This is the rotation. So if you play with the rotation, it will randomize that a little bit more. Y does the Y rotation, but it does them all together. So you gotta. That's why you need to do them manually, really, and you know what the scale does. So if you're happy with the amount, I actually want a few more in here. I'm going to put a couple more in there. Put one in there. I can use that one on the top. That one's on the top. Put one on this side. Yep. So what this will do is, once you've ticked that, like at the moment, I can rotate. I can play with the sizes, and they'll all adjust at the same time. So click this, and that accepts the objects as they are. So it bakes it down basically. So now if I play with these, nothing's going to happen. See, so that's accepted. So turn that off. Paint with objects in list. Now your job is to go in, and this does take a bit of time, so spend some time on this. You want it to look the best you can. So provided your pivot points are all in the correct place, this should be a relatively straightforward task. You want to just adjust them. And I always make them a bit smaller on the top, because if you look at trees, the last leaves to grow are always the smallest and the greenest. So make them small. They're always quite young shoots, and it feels more natural like that. If you look at that, especially that one there, looks quite realistic. So make them smaller. I would at the end, or I am. And then just position them however you want them. That one there is quite a big one. Let's bring him. Let's just scale that down a little bit. This one up here looks a bit weird. So I'll bring him up, turn him around a little. And you can even move them if you want to. Don't be afraid to move them. As long as they go into the bark, as long as they look like they're coming out of the tree, that's fine. And don't worry about this bark. I know it looks pretty horrendous like this, but when we render it out at this resolution, at this size, at this distance, you're not going to see it. So don't worry about it. So I'm just going to adjust all these now. What I'll do, all I'm doing is using move, rotate and scale to adjust all my values on my branches. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably put this on fast forward because it is quite time consuming. You know, just take your time to do this, make it look really interesting. Make it look as realistic as you can. So be careful you don't end up with things like this, because that will break the illusion. So just go through all your branches and, you know, use your keyboard, keep your hand on and QWE, which is what I use. And just go through and adjust them accordingly, however you want to. So I'm going to put this on fast forward now, and I'll see you when I'm done. And there we have it. There's our branch. Quite happy with that. And what you want to be careful of is you don't get too many repeats of the same one. You know, like it starts to look weird, like straight out branches don't tend to do that. So just be careful you don't get too many. I did on these. I had several that were looking a bit repetitive, so I deleted them, changed them, scaled them, and moved them around. Okay, so there's our branches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I want you to do now is to create the rest of your branches like this, and then please ensure you do it, because in the next lecture we're going to render them all out into our sheets so we can start using them as textures for our tree. And we're not going to do the same as we did last time. We're not going to use render to texture because we can't, because of the alpha on the leaves. Render to texture, the rays doesn't detect the alpha when you have multiple objects. So we're going to have to use a different technique, and it's perfectly fine. What we're going to do is just equally interesting. So I'll see you in the next one.